Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 worst Zelda bosses. The Legend of Zelda has plenty of memorable boss encounters, but for this list we'll be looking at ones that definitely missed the mark, whether it be due to underwhelming gameplay or a poor design. Which of these Zelda boss fights do you wish had been scrapped? Head to those comments and let us know.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Number 10. Digdogger, The Legend of Zelda. We don't want to pile too heavily onto Digdogger. Boss fights in the 80s obviously had to be limited in terms of looks and strategies, but Link still barely has to do anything before Digdogger is kaput. As the boss of level 5, players will have to use the dungeon's item, a recorder, to shrink Digdogger down before dealing damage. All the creature does is move around the room while fireball shooting statues try to do its job for it. It only takes a few swings of the sword before it's defeated. Also, its design is much less interesting compared to others like the multi-headed dragon Gleeok and the giant arachnid Goma. Number 9. Master Kohga, The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild. Throughout Breath of the Wild, the traitorous Yiga clan were built up to be a powerful force, and navigating their fortress while avoiding Yiga Blade Masters was certainly tense. When we finally squared off against their boss, however, he turned out to be a pretty big letdown. Master Kohga isn't anything like the player expects him to be. Out of shape and a bit of a coward, his demeanor is quite silly and not at all intimidating. That wouldn't be a problem if his fight was remotely challenging, but it mostly amounts to sitting and waiting for the right opportunity to make his own boulders fall on his head. For as much build-up as he received, Kohga's fight should have been much more interesting. Number 8. Morpheel, The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. We could forgive a game's third boss for going a little easy on Link, but Morpheel is laughably easy to avoid. Found in the Lakebed Temple, this giant eel's first phase consists of hiding in the sand and sending out bombfish. After you claw-shot its eye out to stab it a few times, Morpheel will begin to swim around the room, revealing its alarming stature. Unfortunately, the second phase is even easier than the first. It'll only attack if you're right in front of it, a place most players won't find themselves as the game shows you Morpheel's weak spot on its back. The boss gets points for atmosphere thanks to its arena and design, but ultimately, the fight is pretty dull. Number 7. Tentalus, The Legend of Zelda, Skyward Sword. Like Master Kohga, Tentalus has a terrific build-up. It's fought at the end of the Sand Ship, one of Skyward Sword's best dungeons. Tentacles will begin to rip through the ship, forcing Link to make a swift exit. But when we finally got a look at the so-called Abyssal Leviathan, we had to stifle our laughter. Its cartoonish design just doesn't fit with its environment, and it eliminates all the tension from the previous moments. The fight at least keeps you on your toes, even if it does boil down to a bombardment of tentacles before Link can damage its eye. However, it still ends the dungeon on a sour note. Tentalus is nothing like the horrific creature we were expecting to face. Number 6. Armagoma, The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. This giant spider is the 6th dungeon's boss, yet it's almost as easy as Morpheel. It will spend most of the time crawling around on the ceiling, dropping eggs and shooting a laser. All Link has to do is wait, shoot it in the eye, and use the dungeon's Dominion Rod to smush it with a statue. It's very similar to Ocarina of Time's first boss, just placed late game with an extra step. Also, while its design has been used throughout fantasy for decades, a giant spider should definitely put up more of a fight. If the encounter had relied on quick speed and Armagoma's multitude of limbs, it may have actually posed a challenge. Instead, it's a giant boar. Number 5. Big Green Choo Choo, The Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap. We look forward to every Zelda boss fight. Even if it's a refresh on a boss found in previous games, it's still something different from enemies found elsewhere. And that is why Big Green Choo-Choo is such a disappointment. Link fights it at the end of the first dungeon. There's nothing remotely unique in its look from Choo-Choos encountered in the overworld. It isn't even big. Link is just small. The player uses the dungeon's gust jar to suck jelly from the boss's base, causing it to fall over so they can stab it. Considering the item's clever usage of traversal in later sections, we're willing to bet the developers could have come up with a more compelling gameplay loop and boss design. Number 4. Anglerfish, The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening. This handheld classic has a lot of memorable bosses, but it hits a definite low point with the 4th dungeon's boss. Other bosses either have unique mechanics, a cool design, or both, but Anglerfish fails on all fronts. Its weak point sticks out like a sore thumb, giving the player an opportunity to win before it even attacks. Its attack pattern isn't that engaging either. It floats up and down before charging forward. Slow-falling rocks and smaller fish are also fairly easy to avoid. At least the 2019 remake gave Anglerfish higher mobility and durability, but it still isn't very fun. Number 3. Morpheel, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Lo and behold, another underwhelming water-themed boss. Only this time, it's actual water. Ocarina of Time's water temple has a reputation for being exceptionally tough due to its layout. Yet for some reason, Nintendo made its boss incredibly simplistic. Water, albeit with a nucleus inside, is an awful design. Not only is that facet bland, but Morpheel also only has one attack. It reaches a tendril out to grab Link and shakes him before hurling him across the room. By avoiding it, Link can pull the nucleus out with the long shot before slicing through it. Everything about Morpheel is a letdown, especially considering the dungeon's incredible mini-boss. Number 2. Moldorm, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. No matter how many times we replay A Link to the Past, the Tower of Hera always elicits groans because this thing is waiting at the end. Moldorm won't even try to directly attack Link. It merely slides around its arena. But there lies the problem. If Moldorm bumps into you while you're trying to attack the tail, it could send you flying off the edge or down the hole in the floor. You then have to climb back up and face him at full health, which is more than a little obnoxious. It's an infamously annoying fight. What's even worse is that Moldorm has made several subsequent appearances in other Zelda games. Why, Nintendo? Why? Number 1. The Imprisoned, The Legend of Zelda, Skyward Sword. Ugh, this guy. The Imprisoned is fought 3 times throughout this Wii entry, and at least 2 of them are entirely unnecessary. We disliked his appearance almost immediately. His strange body with fish-like scales and squishy toes is extremely off-putting. The fights themselves are exceptionally tedious. Link grossly pops his zit-like toes to make him fall, and after the first encounter, each of his steps sends out shockwaves to make everything more annoying. While there is an easier method, it's likely players won't be aware of it the first, second, or even third time. And it doesn't excuse his design, which somehow feels like a baby monster playing pretend. Nothing about this boss is intimidating, and it is a far cry away from fun.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.